Bitcoin has most recently dropped down lower than $60,000. It looks like it's toying with the idea of maybe losing the $60,000 support level. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the technical analysis on Bitcoin, sharing my thoughts and opinions as to where I think the price action is heading next. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, and let's take a look at what's going on with BTC. So here we have Bitcoin paired up with USDT. We're on the 1 hour Binance chart here, and you can see we do have a series of lower highs and lower lows here on the 1 hour time frame. So you can see that we have this series of lower lows coming in and the resistance on the 200 on the 50 EMA and the 50 SMAs, the blue and yellow lines coming through here. The next move, in my opinion, is to come down into the range that we were talking about yesterday. It does look like a diagonal based structure, and we are looking between 58,828 and $59,650. This is in line with what we were talking about a couple days ago. With this most recent move to the downside, we had the little push up, and we are looking for this next move to the downside to finish off. It to me looks like we are in the idea of a ending diagonal based pattern. So this could play out in one of two ways, in my opinion. We've kind of got the conservative target, which is of course down here. And then there's the more bearish one. And the more bearish one is quite disturbing because we'd be looking for a pretty nasty move for Bitcoin here, where we would be looking to come down significantly lower, heading more towards the $57,000. Again, that will be something that we want to be aware of as a possibility. But to me, we're hoping that this holds out in this conservative low between the 58,828 and 59,650. Now, the reason and the rationale and the logic that goes into that is that we are following the idea that this is, of course, an impulsive reversal pattern from the upper targets that we had up here. We were, of course, hoping that we would finish off this little move a little bit higher towards the 67.9 to 68.9 or 68.6, I should say. Obviously, we tapped into that low range and got rejected. It was a clean rejection. Once we started to lose the 50 EMA, 50 EMA supports, we did see these moves to the downside. So we obviously saw great reversals from those higher range expectations. And of course, we're coming down into the lower range expectations now, which means we will be looking for a bounce for Bitcoin. We will be looking for progression to the upside, but not until we finish this off, in my opinion. Now, on this, at the point of kind of recording today's video, which is basically 0400 UTC, you can see that we've got a clean rejection here from the 50 EMA, the blue line, and then we've closed below the 50 simple moving average. We then got another close here as well. So this to me looks like clean rejection, and we should be thinking about these next moves to the downside. Now, technically speaking, it is still possible for us to move up a little bit further. There's the possible scenario here where we can move this out into these slightly higher ranges. Essentially between 61,753 and 62,000 as a potential possibility. So we can't rule out a quick flash wick higher to basically liquidate those short positions before we actually move on down. I wouldn't expect that to be the case, but it's something to kind of bear in mind that it's still a possible scenario that we push up just to kind of liquidate everyone and then move down again. So yeah, my targets on the smaller time frame and the trade opportunities here are to short into this low between 58,828 and 59,650. That's my expectations on BTC's price action. And if you're in the profit pit down in our Discord server by using our affiliate links in the description down below, you guys will know exactly what my moves are when it comes to shorting BTC. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these other things that are going on. Well, we have an overbought stochastic RSI here on the 1 hour time frame and the 4 hour time frame. You can see that we're starting to see a little bit of a dip here with a negative cross with the the stochastic RSI, the yellow line, dropping down lower than the smoothing of K, which is essentially the glorified moving average of the stochastic RSI. When we see that, it's usually a bearish cross or a bullish cross, as you can kind of see when we had the bullish cross over here on the 3rd of October at 1500 hours UTC. Great run to the upside, right? And here you can see bullish cross also at 1 a.m. Friday. Then, of course, where we are right now, negative cross. So this could be where we see these negative crosses really kind of taking in and shifting the momentum to the downside on the 1 hour time frame. Now, if we take that off and bring in our divergence indicator, here you can see that we are above the 50 level. And we have seen some hidden bearish divergences appearing here. So we want to be aware of any potential divergences that are appearing, but there's no bullish ones being flagged up at the moment. We are higher than the 50 level, but we'll see whether we can hold it. If we can, we might see a little bit of a bump to the upside, but ultimately we will be looking for moves to the downside. Taking a look at the volume profiles here, we can see that there is an insignificant amount of volume trying to push us up higher. So you can see volumes are dropping as price pushed up. That kind of divergence, it tells us that this is a weak move to the upside as we hit into these upper areas of resistance. resistance here. And of course, whilst that's happening, this volume is just dropping. So there's not a huge appetite for buying, which again seems kind of counterintuitive when we kind of use those terms of buy the dip and essentially buy the fear and those kind of things. But ultimately, there isn't a huge amount of liquidity in the market. And as such, there isn't an appetite to be buying Bitcoin at these prices. Maybe some people are expecting Bitcoin to go down a little bit lower. And as such, I think it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy to a degree. So appetite for selling into the resistances and not so much an appetite to buy to push the price up into those ranges. So on the 1 hour time frame, it to me looks like we are tracking quite nicely for these moves to the downside here for BTC. Okay, let's roll this up into a daily time frame. On the daily time frame, we can see here that we did fall a little short of the targeted range for the C wave high a few days ago, and of course we are fighting and trying to find support here. So, and the most recent few days, we can see that we have found support on the 200-day EMA and resistance up here on the 50-day EMA. Okay, so the 50 EMA sits at 61,311 at the point of recording, and the 200 EMA sits at 59,900. I suspect that we're going to keep this support for a little bit longer, but at some point in the near future, I expect us to lose the 200 EMA as support. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. Essentially, we've had a pretty aggressive sell-off here since we had those highs. We did drop down a reasonable amount by about 10.03% over the last few days or so. Now, our stochastic RSI is down here in the ground, essentially showing us that we have corrected that momentum. We were talking about being overbought and we were looking for a move to the downside, and well, we can see that the stochastic RSI has fully corrected here on the daily time frame. There's also a bit of a bullish cross. Okay, so the stochastic RSI, the yellow line, has crossed above the smoothing of K, the white line, and that's an indication that momentum might be starting to shift upwards on the daily time frame. Okay, so whereas on the smaller time frame we're seeing a little bit more of the opposite, where we're looking for small moves to the downside, to me it looks like a relief rally is about to happen. Okay, so suspect us to retest the 200 EMA, and then we want to be thinking about potential long positions around here with a tight stop loss below the 200 EMA, and we'll probably target out that previous area of resistance coming in and around this range of around $62,900 approximately. So that's going to be the trade idea on the daily time frame. If you hold trade open for like a week or so, we could be looking for a long position here, because I do think the relief rally will be short-lived and we will move back down quite aggressively, as I do think this is a part of a bigger play, and the bigger play being that we are looking for that relief rally and then another move to the downside. If we're lucky, it's just an ABC structure like this. If we are unlucky, this can turn into a pretty nasty move, which will be a more 5-wave based pattern like this, when that's how I think we get down to the $49,000. Obviously, what fundamental reasons and rationales that people might put into that, don't know. But what we do know is that the selling and buying behaviors of the buyers and sellers and the traders actively in Bitcoin right now, they are telling us that we should be aware that there's a potential here for these kind of moves to the downside. Okay, so based on the psychology of it all, we can't rule out 49,000. We can't rule out $40,000 to $44,000 either. But we want to be aware that if we do get some big bearish breakdowns that hit those kind of impulsive trigger points and we start trending lower than the 200 EMA on the daily time frame, then yeah, we want to be kind of really kind of thinking about what that means for $49,000 Bitcoin, $40,000 Bitcoin, and so forth. But for the most part, everything is kind of playing out in line with our expectations. Nothing much else to kind of report from that kind of point of view. If we take a look at our divergence indicator here, you can see that we've dropped down lower than the 50 level, and there is still plenty of room to drop to them even lower here. Okay, the last time that we were in the oversold area was on the 5th of August. The last time that we were this high was also up on the 21st of July. So we are looking for these moves to the downside. It took from the 21st of July down to the 5th of August to get down into the oversold area. Here you can see on the way down we have a couple of reversals back from July to August, and here you can see the first little bounce relief rally lower than the 50 level, still bearish on the relative strength index. No divergences noted though, so we'll keep that in mind. Our volume profiles, you can see volume did spike up as we dropped down, and volumes are dropping down as we're starting to push up. Essentially, again, seeing that there isn't a huge appetite for buying Bitcoin. This has pretty much been the case for a while though. If we zoom out far enough here, you can see that this is the volume profiles on the exchanges at the moment. Okay, this has been the case since 2023, March 2023. These volumes are insanely low. Okay, so we know that they haven't really seen a significant amount of demand coming in, not like it used to be back here in 2022 and 2021. Okay, so good volumes will come in 2025, in my opinion, as we start to see more mainstream coming in. But ultimately, these volume profiles are indicating that there isn't a huge appetite for both buying or selling. And so we want to be aware that if there is a sudden increase in sell pressure, we can drop down quite aggressively because there's not enough demand to soak up that selling pressure, essentially. Okay, so for the most part, we are kind of behaving as expected. Bitcoin is in this potential move to the downside. We are still lower highs and lower lows, and yeah, we $49,000 to $40,000 potential moves still on the horizon. We are looking for higher highs on the daily time frame. Any higher highs can, of course, break us out of this bearish move that we can see ourselves in. But until that happens, unfortunately, our stance has to be that the traders and the people who are buying and actively selling are just not that interested in BTC at the moment. But of course, these are just my thoughts and opinions on the data in the charts as I see it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, or join us on our free Discord server. And if you haven't done so already, guys, check this video out right here. It's not one you're going to want to miss.